I agree with His Excellency the Deputy President. It's true, Kenya has a shortage of fools. And I think that applies more to some of those petty claims that he's making and so on than anything else. Because really, how would you, Communication Authority of Kenya, with the reputation they have. You know, by the way, people forget, we sit at the International Telecommunication Union as a country at the ITU. We are very respected at the ATU. Kenya has taken its place of pride and honor in the ICT sector in the globe. How would we resort to doing some of those petty things like, shut down the internet, or CAK has been instructed by who to do what? There's nothing, there's no evidence in any of those claims that have been made. And I think at best, and this is my conclusion, Kenyans should just ignore those things, treat them with the extreme contempt they deserve, and focus on the election day. Let us go, like law-abiding citizens, queue, vote, elect our leaders, and wait for what the IBC will tell us. Our democracy has come of age. This is a wonderful country, and God has been gracious to us. We will do our bit, as I believe every Kenyan is determined to do their bit to ensure we have a free and fair election. And ignore these bent-up frustrations that are being vented on security officials and chiefs and so on. We just are on the receiving end of some people's frustrations and disappointments and unnecessary anger, and so on. Thank you. I can take a few questions.
You have questions? Naitwa Vincent Odur from NTV. Waziri, tungependa kujua, kwa muda tumeona naibu wa rais amekuwa na machungu sana dhidi yako Waziri Matiang'i na katibu wako Kibicho, na amekuwa akitekeleza machungu yake sana na amekuwa kuwataja sana. Je, na nyinyi pia mmekuwa mkubwa. Je, kuna kitu cha kibinafsi tungependa kujua mmekosania kati yenu ama kitu personal ambacho kimekuwa kisaucheu hasa makati yenu wawili na naibu wa rais Ruto?
This Hadujamjibu. But you see, when you ask that question, it's two way. Do we have a problem with His Excellency the Deputy President, or he has a problem with us? That is something we need to figure out. Kwa sababu, sometimes I ask this, and please allow me on this particular one, I'm going to break out of the edict of collective responsibility. Yeah, so I was saying, on this particular one, sometimes I ask myself the question, does His Excellency the Deputy President think anything of anybody? If you look at our sector, there's a pattern to this. I may be mistaken to think, in my view, from the observations I have had, and I'll be very frank with you, that maybe there are two groups of public servants in his worldview. The group that would worship him and bows to him and kiss his shoes, which are the group of human beings, or the group that has the temerity even to say no or seek clarification, which is a group of animals. In our sector alone, who does he think anything about? Kinoti ni Mujinga, Inspector General is incompetent, Kibicho and myself are animals, and it's a pattern to this. For the time I have been at the Ministry of Interior, I can say this publicly, he likes to quote God. And God is seeing all of us talking here. The pressure under which we have come before to even sack Natembea, for example. I have not seen a regional commissioner in Rift Valley that the DP did not want sacked. We came under intense pressure to fire Natembea, even as county commissioner in Narok, then as regional commissioner, to fire him from him, insisting he must be fired, even without providing reasons why we should fire him. I think sometimes, as I said, there is a pattern to this, because if you look at the entirety of the security sector, the way we are standing here, if Kinoti ni Mujinga, Inspector General is useless, and these are officers, our DCI is somebody who has been respected enough by his colleagues on the continent to be elected to the board of Interpol. Our Inspector General is somebody who has been respected enough by his colleagues to be elected the president of Afripol. So, on full view of the TV screens, his colleagues, fellow inspectors general across the continent, see his senior insulting him and calling him incompetent. Don't worry about me. Maybe me and PS Kibicho are the animals he describes us to be, or whatever the case may be. Does he think anything about anybody? So it's a question where you should ask yourself, is it us who have a problem with him or he has a problem with us? But I think for the record, and on this particular, and I can speak for my brother here, how can you have a problem with your senior? We don't have a problem. Hatuna shida na yeye at all. Sisi tumepewa majukumu ya kufanya na sisi ni watumishi wa serikali. Tunafanya vile tunaamrishwa na wakubwa wetu. Na yeye ni mmoja wa wakubwa wetu. Lakini yale ambayo sisi hatuwezi kufanya, hatuwezi kuvunja sheria. Na hata yeye mwenyewe anaelewa. Wakati tumehitilafiana, wakati mambo anataka tuvunje sheria, labda hapo ndio shida iko. Labda shida ya Kibicho na mimi ni kusema la. Too late what? No. Kusema no for something. And even these officers I know. Vile wanatusiwa ni kwa sababu labda wakati mwingine wamesema hapana kwa mambo fulani kama hayo. Kwa hivyo sisi hatuna shida na yeye. Labda ana shida na sisi yeye mwenyewe, lakini mimi sijamuuliza na sijakuwa na nafasi ya kumuuliza. Na labda sitakuwa na nafasi ya kumuuliza kwa sababu najua katika protocol ya serikali, unajua hata mkono huwezi kunyoosha mkono kwa mkubwa wako, unangojea mkubwa wako akusalimie. Yeye mwenyewe ndiye anakuambia vile tunaendelea. Sasa siku ile atatuambia vile sisi ni nyang'au ni nini, sote tutaendelea tu, lakini nafikiri wazazi wetu wanajua hawakuzaa nyang'au, walizaa binadamu.
Naitwa Ben kutoka runinga ya Citizen. Kunao baadhi ya wanasiasa wamedai kwamba maisha yao yamo hatarini. Sijui kama mmeweza kuangazia swala hilo, labda kuongezea usalama.
Can you give me an example who has claimed their lives are in danger?
For instance, over the weekend, the courier claimed that his life was in danger. The cab was also claimed. So,
please, let me explain this. And my colleagues here will allow me to say something which is not usual. The decisions we make in the security sector are driven by data and accurate information. The Inspector General or the DCI or the DIG Mbogo or DIG Gabo will not make a decision based on whims or ordinary things. And we collect information on a regular basis all the time. And we are driven by data. You know, we are intelligence-led in the decisions we make. There's something in the security sector we call a threat profile. Threat profile is when we wake up in the morning, and most of these gentlemen who are standing before you here, we start interactions from as early as sometimes 4 a.m. in the morning or 3, or sometimes depending on what the night has thrown to us, we are awake all night. We look at what are the major threats we are facing as a country, and we start working on them. And we have a threat profile where you look at, you know, Al-Shabaab is now giving us problems, blah, blah, they're targeting this, they're doing this, and so on. Then you go all the way from number 1 to whatever number, as it were. Your deployment and your focus, or if you're going to follow somebody, it is because you believe that in that threat profile, they rank very high. I've said this before when I was called to Parliament one time. Some of those individuals who are saying that the police are after them or they are threatening them, in the threat profile between number 1 and 500, they are not there. Which means there are people, even a cockroach cannot spend time thinking about. Because you see, they are no threat to anybody. They are doing their job as politicians. They are talking. You know what wanaongea. And talking is not a threat. Because you see, that is what they are paid to do. Because if you are a politician, your practice is kuongea. Which means as you talk around, even a lizard passing around is not worried about you. So why should Imbowa deploy police officers after you? You are not a threat to anybody. In fact, if anything, you're only a threat to yourself. You're not a threat to anyone. So I don't understand who those people are who are claiming that their lives are in danger. But anyway, the truth of the matter, and many of them, sorry about that. I hope we will finish before another plane. So those who are making those claims, some of these sympathy-seeking or sympathy-craving, publicity stunts about, oh, my life is in danger and so on, police are after me. And these gentlemen have better things to do. And as I told you, if they have to go to look at somebody, they look at the threat profile. Where do you feature? If between number 1 and 600, you don't feature, why would a senior police officer like, Tiombo spend time on you, honestly, and deploy police to look after you? You are not a threat to anybody. You are not a threat to anybody. If anything, you are a threat to yourself. So why would we now say you put police officers behind you and so on? So people keep making all these silly claims around. But anyway, anytime anybody has come up and said, I have a problem, and genuinely there's a problem, the inspector